Okay, good morning, Dr. Kucha. How are you doing today?
I am great. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Very nice today. It's a nice sunny-ish day, a little cloudy, but we're
Yeah.
doing great.
Yeah.
So basically, we are here talking to our first year students today that are in Pathway Plus, and we just want to get them introduced to you, your department. So just to start off, can you just tell us a little bit about counseling, what y'all do, and what your role is?
Yes. So at UNG, our students are actually what I consider very lucky. We are one of the few universities that do not charge for therapy. So our therapy is free. It is confidential. There's always some exceptions to the confidentiality, but I can touch on that a little bit later if you feel we need to do that. We offer a variety of services, and one of the biggest ones right now is group therapy. We have 11 over all the campuses going, and it helps for the students to connect with each other. I feel like we're so disconnected since COVID, and groups have received so much positive feedback. We have 5 state licensed therapists. You had to go through years of training to become state licensed, and we all are. And we're the ones that are in charge of the groups and the therapy. So it's a little bit, in a nutshell, kind of what our services and what UNG student counseling is about.
Awesome. Well, that leads me to my next question. So, I know that counseling when I was in high school looked very different from what I came to know counseling in college. High school, my counselor had like so many different hats. Like she was the person who helped me apply for college. She helped me with like mental health stuff. She helped me with a whole bunch of things. So, how does counseling in high school differ from college level?
It differs in just about every way you just mentioned. Uh,
Pretty much, right?
UNG, UNG student counseling does really none of that. We are more like if you went to a therapist in the community and paid $100 for an hour of their service. That's what we do. We are psychological services. We help students who may be going through struggles of anxiety, depression, a breakup. Now, to clarify, we do help students in a way with career aspirations. If they're saying, I really want to go into this career, but I'm having trouble with test anxiety. I want to go into this field and my parents want me to go into this field. I don't know how to navigate that. Um, we refer to career services a lot here on campus. Um, and if one of the big ones is when a student is lacking motivation just to go to class, to do their assignments, but they're motivated to pursue that career, we can focus on what that block is for them. So there might be a little bit of an overlap with the academic stuff, but really we are very different than a school counselor in their position. So this is you're having thoughts of harming yourself. You come and see us. You're having thoughts of harming someone else. You come and see us. The psychological aspect of all of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's very different from the high school format that most people are used to
Yes.
dealing with, obviously. So I'm glad you clarified that. My next question concerns something you touched on in our first question, which was confidentiality, and also just like if I come in as a student to counseling and I'm worried about how it's going to affect my academic success, how does all of that affect me as a student? Or if I'm concerned that my parents are going to find out that I'm going to counseling, what are there any ways that you guys can basically protect students in terms of the information that they're sharing in these sessions?
Yes. So in the original first question, I answered with we have 5 on the Gainesville campus, not on UNG as a whole, but on the Gainesville campus, we have 5 state licensed clinicians. The state license is what protects not only the therapist, but the client as well. And within that state license, we have code of ethics. Within that, there's also legalities. There's very few reasons we will break that confidentiality. It does not go on an academic record anywhere that someone was a client. And the school cannot have access to that information. We are totally separate when it comes to filing systems. Okay. The reasons that we are given to break confidentiality is if someone is a harm to themselves or others, but it has to be imminent. It has to be like right now, I am going to harm myself or somebody else, which is different than a student saying, yeah, I have thoughts of that. I wouldn't do it, but I have thoughts. Compare that with, yes, I'm going to walk out of here and I am going to harm someone or myself. Okay. If there's abuse in the home, and if we have a court order, it has to be from the court system. And those are really the only reasons that we will break confidentiality. If a professor walks a student over and says, hey, you know, they're struggling, I recommended that they come over and speak with you. I just wanted to walk them over because they were nervous. Great. That happens a lot. As soon as that professor leaves, that student is a client of ours. And even if the professor calls later and says, hey, how was my student? We cannot confirm or deny, even though they brought him over. So you have to have a release of information for us to say anything other than those stipulations I mentioned just a minute ago. That release of information has to come from the student. They have to sign and say, yes, I give you permission to talk to my parent, to talk to the dean of students, to talk to my professor. Now, if a student is 17 or younger, then the parents have the right, not the student. Okay. So we even have to get permission from the legal parents, legal guardians, to see someone who is 17 or younger. They can't just come in on their own. If they're 18 or over, they can come in, make the appointment. Nobody has to know.
Gotcha. It's really interesting to hear how you guys actually go to such lengths to maintain our privacy as students, because I know a lot of people feel like once they start going to counseling, like it becomes a thing. There's a stigma around it and people are going to know. So yeah, it's
Not
really
unless
good
they
to
tell
hear
them.
this. Yeah. Which brings me actually to my next question, which is I'm glad you mentioned that if a professor walks you over, and that happens actually a lot. If you're concerned about a student that you can help them get that help, you may not be able to help them all the way through, but you can at least get them there. So if I'm a student and I have a friend who is struggling, is it similar if a professor goes basically, or is there anything else that I should probably know before talking to my friend about going to counseling?
There's a little bit more I could tell you about that. But a lot of it's the same. If you're concerned about a friend, you can have many options. Give them our information, just hand it to them for knowledge, walk them over. And we prefer, unless the student, your friend, asks you to stay, you just kind of wait for them, maybe in the caf or in the quad. But you can walk them over. You can call us and you can sit there with your friend as they call us, but the appointment has to come from them. Okay. With professors, sometimes a student is having such trouble that we have to leave here and go to wherever the student is. Okay. At that point, confidentiality is just gone because we've left our safe environment here. But if we have to go outside of here and meet a student like in another office, we can't guarantee confidentiality. Here we have sound screens that the next office that has a clinician in it, they can't even hear what we're talking about. But there's another avenue that I'm not sure a lot of students are aware of, but it's called See Something. It is on the Dean of Students website. If you faculty or staff are concerned about a student, faculty, or staff, then you can fill that out. You can ask to be anonymous, but that's not a guarantee. It does not come from student counseling. It is from the Dean of Students office. That concern will then go to the dean, who will give it to the people that need to be involved to help the student. And we have had great success with that system in helping. It's not a conduct issue. It's somebody needs help and we need to get that help to them.
Yeah, we actually touched on that on a different interview with the dean of students, and that was a really cool tool that I never knew we had at UNG, and it's all available online, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because at my first university that I went to, everything had to be in person, everything had to have a face with it. And so the fact that if you are going through something and you can just go on your phone even and get
Yeah.
help, that's great. And that's something really unique to UNG. I've never seen that anywhere else. So
Yeah.
very neat. My next question then is, when should I visit the counseling office? So when I started going to counseling, which I did, I am very proud to say that it has helped me tremendously throughout college through many different phases. You usually like went in, you did like a session, and then they would let you come back in after 2 weeks. And scheduling varied a lot because I also, when I was during COVID and I actually transferred to UNG, they had very limited availability for spots. So if I'm a student today, I'm a freshman and I'm just starting out at UNG, what does it look like if I want to go visit? Like, how often am I going to go? How can I expect to get an appointment? And how often should I be going?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So some of that depends, but some of it has very concrete answers. When should a student come and seek our services? I usually say it's when life stress has exceeded your healthy coping skills. So what you do for healthy coping, it just isn't working anymore. It's probably when you need to come in. When you do come in, yeah, things have changed since COVID, as you could probably imagine. Our services have changed a little bit, and the way that we operate has changed due to that. We have walk-in hours. So every day, except for 2 hours in that day, Monday through Friday, we have walk-in hours, because what we realized was somebody would call and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. I need an appointment. You would have to wait 2 weeks. Well, that's a long time to wait when you're struggling. And there's a big chance that you might change your mind and just not come in. We miss that window of opportunity. So now we've always seen crisis walk-ins, but now we have extended it to somebody walks in and says, I need an appointment. And we ask, can you be seen right now? A lot of the times they say, oh my gosh, yes, I want to be seen now and I will be seen now, whether they're skipping class or not. They choose to make that decision. This is more important at this point. And so we're not losing them that way. For the first appointment, about 20 minutes is paperwork. That's everywhere. It's inevitable. But once you've done that, that part's over. Sessions, this is where it depends. Some sessions end with a referral to the community because they may need a higher level of care than what our resources can give. They may be referred to group, which I am loving right now. I am the biggest fan of group. People are connecting, they're talking to each other. A lot of success with that. It may be a brief therapy, which is 4 to 6 sessions. And all this is normal. This is complete normal and average for the nation at this time. Or somebody may come in and say, I just needed some coping skills. I needed some advice. And it's a one-time appointment. That's all they want. That's all they need. We even have a name for it. Single solution focused therapy. just one time. So right now we're really into the groups. Not everybody is appropriate for group, and we recognize that. And so they may be referred to the brief therapy.
Awesome.
But the other part of what you were saying is seen every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily the case anymore. People are getting in quick. If they're not, it's because of their schedule, not ours, which is very different. They may want to only be seen every 2 weeks, or they may want to be seen weekly until the next group starts, and then they transition into group. It really just depends on what the student needs at that time.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that there's much more flexibility for counseling now, because when it's not, you feel a bit discouraged when you're told, well, you have to wait 2 weeks, or you have to do it through Zoom, or you have to do it through this. To know that now that there's basically any which way to do it and it doesn't look the same for everybody, um, that's really amazing. And I'm really happy that our students particularly get to have that, because we have so many students across so many different campuses with so many different needs. I feel like the only way to have an appropriate system is if you make it flexible, because one size doesn't fit all, especially for this.
No, no. Yeah. And it sounds like, we're pretty concrete in the services we offer, but we're not. The only thing that we're not offering is long-term, high level of care situations.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Well, you pretty much answered all of my questions. I think
Oh,
students
good.
have a really great idea about what counseling actually is and how they can get in contact, what they can use counseling for. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we hop off?
We do have after hours on call. We have it a few ways. Each clinician takes a week and we cover on call. Those are for life and death situations. But we also have Nigel Cares, which is being rebranded to Live Well UNG. That offers a 24/7 crisis line where a student can call them and just talk if they need to. And I want to mention 988, which is the new number for suicide prevention.
Wow.
Those will be very needed for students to know that just because we close our doors at 5:30 doesn't mean that our services end.
Wow, that's actually really great to know, because I didn't know about that at all. And I've been at UNG for 4 years now, and I never knew that we actually even had a hotline specific to us. I'd heard of like the Georgia hotlines, but
Right.
not the one for UNG specifically. That's really good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well,
I think
thank you
that
very
covers
much.
everything that I had in mind. Does that cover it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you guys talked to me about that today and to let students know what your department's about. Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Well, it
Thank
was
you so
great
much for your
talking with
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you have a good one. We'll see you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.